speak to you this morning about situational awareness in the context of rock climbing, mountaineering, ice climbing, snow climbing, and even sport climbing. Why the subject? Well, because there are many people out there climbing who simply don't have a good situational awareness of the multi-layered aspect to all the risks that are involved in climbing. I'm going to speak about things like rock fall, which is the obvious thing, and for instance, if you're not wearing a helmet, even while sport climbing, I think you're being very, very silly about things. When rocks come down, they come down very quickly, very fast, and I'm afraid the kind of consequences of that are not good. But there are all kinds of other layers to the risks that are involved. And for instance, we're talking about things like a leader being on a climb, bringing up somebody behind them that is new to the sport, and they fall off above an overhang, the rope stretches, the new person is hanging in midair, and the leader is unable to get them back onto the rock. I'm also going to speak about things like when you are on a horizontal traverse pitch and a person comes off behind, and if that pitch is not protected in a certain way, you can have the rope run along a sharp edge and cut or be damaged. And it's that kind of situational awareness of all the aspects that are involved in a climb that are going to make things a whole lot safer, and all the people in the party on a climb need to be aware of all these kinds of layers of risk that are involved. In many accidents over the years, injuries and deaths, unfortunately one of the major factors is falling rock, and that rock can be knocked off by the leader, by abseilers. So be aware, if you're for instance belaying, or you're standing at a belay stance with the person above you, there's a very good chance that rock can come down, and be aware of it. Wear a helmet. Perhaps stand slightly off, don't stand directly underneath the climber, but be also aware that rocks don't always fall in straight lines. They hit the rock face and they can be knocked outwards, and you can be standing 3 or 4 meters away from a rock face and still be hit. And unfortunately, over the years I've had to be involved in the cleaning up of those sort of accidents, or doing the investigation, and unfortunately people who generally are not wearing a helmet and get hit by a rock, I know for a fact that death is normally pretty instantaneous. One of the other ways you can stay out of trouble, particularly if you're belaying, is just to try to find a bit of an overhang, and so you can still see your lead climber, but have a look up all the time and be able to just stand in underneath an overhang. If you are the belayer and you need to have other forms of situational awareness, and let's think of a few other ones. And one is, how close is the lead climber still to the ground, and how far apart are the protection points? And you as the belayer need to watch and be aware that if the person is still quite close to the ground, that's the lead climber still close, and how far they are above a certain protection point, and that they could still hit the ground in certain places, or in fact hit a ledge. And you as the belayer need to be aware of that, and you might have to take in rope at certain places to reduce the amount of fall that could occur. Don't allow other people to distract you. Be aware of other distractions. For instance, if you're in a bit of a crowd, lots of people belaying, people talking, and that can be a bad environment, and you stop watching what the leader is doing when they need your undivided attention. Other points would be particularly on long trad routes, particularly if you don't know the route. Halfway mark points on ropes are very useful, and one of their uses here is, as the lead climber goes out, you need to know, for instance, how long is your rope, and that when the halfway mark goes past through your belay device, you can shout to the lead climber and just tell them that they've used half their rope, and then estimate perhaps when they get to only 10 meters left, and that they can start to look for the belay stance or a belay stance if you're perhaps opening a new route. But don't let them get into that realm where they're 60 meters away from you and you have forgotten to warn them that they are about to run out of rope. Then, if you are on lead, also you need to have good situational awareness. And as with belaying, number one thing is watch out for loose rock and realize that there's people down below you. You pull off a loose rock, it could be a bad situation for them. And as you come up a climb, and you can always note where any dangerous rocks are, and when your friend comes up below you, warn them before they get to that place that there's a loose rock, particularly if there are other people below that person. Keep going. You'll see up on your right hand side now there's a big flaky looking piece of rock. It's loose. You tend to want to put your hand on it. Yeah, that one there. If you want to some more climb, let's bring two people up at the same time. Don't just arbitrarily do it on all pitches. As you climb on lead, have this awareness about looking at the rock face that your friend's going to come up, and assess it. How loose is it? How dangerous is it to bring two people up at the same time? And if it's too loose, then don't bring them up at the same time. Keep the one person in relative safety down below and bring people up one at a time. And I personally would have a friend still with me if it wasn't for one of those bad situations where it turned very bad for my friend. Then, if you are leading on a horizontal section of climbing, particularly on trad, the major danger here is that if the second comes off on the traverse, is that they take a pendulum fall, but in doing so the rope runs along a sharp edge, particularly if you've got rails. The rock has got a horizontal rail on it, and what you should do is be aware of where the hard sections are and place protection for yourself before the hard move, and afterwards that you reduce the amount of fall and hopefully not have the rope cut across an edge. The other one is if you have a pitch where it is vertical and then goes into a horizontal move, left or right, you must place a protection point to get the direction of the rope running, that as the second comes up and does the turn from vertical to horizontal, that if they come off at that point that they are protected, that again you don't get the rope running along an edge before they get caught and having a rope cut or damaged that way. As a lead climber, and particularly if you're bringing somebody up who's inexperienced, as you lead the pitch, one needs to be aware of how hard the climb is, and hopefully you've kind of assessed what kind of level the person you're going to bring up the pitch is like. And you can take all sorts of kind of countermeasures to make your life easier when you get to the stance. And these would range from anything from, if you know there's a hard move on the pitch and that this person might not be able to get through that hard move, is have your belay rigged up in guide mode or reverso mode with a set of prussiks, or one of the other kind of devices, mechanical devices, that you can set up a 3-to-1 very quickly and haul them up through that hard move. Be aware of things like, as I mentioned in the introduction, an incompetent or new climber, when you bring them up and over an overhanging section, or even just to traverse above an overhanging section, that if they come off, they're going to fall, the rope is going to stretch, and they could be hanging in midair, and they might not be able to get themselves back onto the rock. And what do you do in those situations? You could do, for instance, don't take them on the route. You could place protection on the hard move and tell them that if they think they're going to fall off, is rather grab the protection than to fall into space, and then you've got a real problem on your hands. You could make sure that they can prussik and have prussik loops on them. You might be able to haul them up directly from there, but in many situations there's too much friction in the system and you'll battle to haul them up. So those are some of the issues that you need to worry about or think about on lead. Then lastly, on situational awareness, something for the lead climber and in fact the whole party. On a multi-pitch route in particular, and particularly on a big mountain, as you climb up the mountain, or the multi-pitch trad route, or the multi-pitch sport route, be aware of how long each pitch is, and if there are abseil points, rappel points nearby. They could be the chains on a sport route. There could be old pieces of abtat hanging on the mountain. But you put it in your mind each time you go past these points of how long, where they are, so you can find them in the dark or in the mist, what they look like. And then as you go on up the mountain, you know how many abseils or rappels you have to do to get back down to the ground. And for instance, things like, if you can see things like loose rock, places where you think, well, the rope might get caught or pinched or something like that, there might be 2 abseil options. Which one is going to be best for your purposes? And all these kind of things you put in your mind as you go up, that when you get to the summit of the climb, you've got a good idea about how you're going to get back down. Those things are highly important.
The silly lies, we're perfect just the way we are. There's no need to hide. There's no need. no surprise how real it all can be. How real it all can be. Just take it slow. The sun will show you where to go. Trust your heart can help you see. I have seen the light inside of me. Just take it slow. The sun will show you where to go. Trust your